This is Eileen Griffin with the Heartland View from the Heartland Daily News, bringing you information and analysis about public policy stories that affect your life, your health, your freedom, and the nation's economy. The news this week is really going to be full of Afghanistan, so we are going to cover that, but we've got a quick update on election integrity, which is good news for everybody who's interested in having free and fair elections. So there was a report recently done. The RNC took on an investigation of the 2020 election. And this committee documents numerous ways in which the Democratic Party broke laws, implemented changes without federal or state constitutional and statutory authority, and otherwise gamed the system to swing that 2020 election in favor of Joe Biden. So after several months of investigating, it has become clear, and there's enough documented evidence to show that there were a variety of tactics used that likely resulted in the election of Joe Biden. The investigation revealed that Democrat-run cities and states used the COVID-19 crisis to change rules, and they found places where the Democrats used the virus as an excuse to skip over voter identification requirements, to provide mail-in ballots even when people hadn't asked for mail-in ballots. And they limited the ability for people to oversee these polls, for the poll watchers to come in and supervise. And so those people were no longer allowed to keep watch, and the excuse used was the virus. Now, the committee also took note of millions dumped into campaign coffers by Mark Zuckerberg, and he obviously supports left-wing causes. So there's a number of cases where this amount of money could certainly influence an election. Now the RNC plans to fight back. It's already spent $40 million on election integrity initiatives since the 2020 elections, and it's going to continue to build from there and try to improve the system so there isn't gaming of the system and there isn't this lack of integrity, so that people lose faith in our ability to have a free and fair election. So for example, another election integrity update in the state of Wisconsin. So they've realized they've got an awful lot of people on their voter rolls who should be deactivated. So they deactivated over 205,000 from their registrations. And this is interesting because they said there's actually 4.6 million people of voting age in Wisconsin. But there are 7.1 million people on the state's voter rolls in total. So what they said in the state of Wisconsin, once you're on the voter rolls, you just stay there. So they had to go through and basically deactivate all of these people, over 200,000, and in their efforts to try to improve voter integrity, so good for them. Other states are also doing the same thing. We'll keep an eye on it, continue to report on this. It's so important, voter integrity. So now on to Afghanistan. So in the news, we saw horrifying images and videos of what's happening in there. And as Pat Buchanan refers to it, he calls it the aftermath of an Afghanistan debacle. No way to deny that. It was an absolute debacle. And it's so bad that even the mainstream news has to report on it. You can't ignore it. There's videos, there's images, we see tragic faces, we hear the crying children, the screaming children, people running and desperately trying to grab on hold of a leaving airplane and grabbing a hold of American service members. It's tragic. We all know that as the Americans leave, we know that we're leaving these people to grim fate. We know that. We know most importantly, the most significant victims of this are going to be women and girls. They will suffer under a Taliban takeover. And where are the voices of the left in this country? Where are all those people that want to speak up for women's rights? Where are these woke women's activists, the Me Too people? All those who would march and cause riots over a perceived affront of one woman, but say nothing about an entire country full of women and children who will become sex slaves, they'll be sold into marriage, they'll be denied an education and any level of civic engagement. They'll essentially disappear. Where are all those indignant voices while this is going on? Right now, the Taliban is putting a moderate front. They're trying to say that they will give women some rights, but we all know that's probably something that's going to disappear as soon as America is finally removed completely. And as Buchanan says, quote, given the character of the Taliban as revealed in its previous tenure and the desire for revenge against those who have been killing Taliban comrades, the future looks grim for those left behind, end quote. He also says that when Saigon fell in 1975, its armed forces went into re-education camps. So they were basically put in concentration camps. Hundreds of thousands of civilians fled on rafts, many to their death in the South China Sea. So we can anticipate seeing something similar in Afghanistan. The Cambodians who backed us underwent genocide. A fraction of the entire population was annihilated by the Khmer Rouge of Pol Pot. The reputation of America has been significantly damaged by all of this. And Joe Biden's name will always be attached to the collapse of Afghanistan and the horribly botched withdrawal of U.S. troops. His name will be attached to the abandonment of U.S. citizens left there to fend for themselves without any support. Also, the Afghan friends and allies, people that came to our assistance, that worked with us when we were there. Those people also abandoned. Under the name of Joe Biden, there's messaging that's gone out to the entire world. And as Ben Shapiro says, quote, Biden has chosen decline, end quote. He said that choice was not inevitable. It was completely foolhardy. It was ridiculously decided and not unnecessarily so. And Shapiro says it's a symptom of Biden's commitment to his own idiotic ideology, an ideology that crashed headlong into the steel wall of reality in Afghanistan. So in the months since Joe Biden took office, we've seen that he doesn't really care that much about America's reputation abroad. He doesn't care about making America great again. He doesn't care about America First or an America First strategy. He's done nothing but spend taxpayer dollars and advance a woke agenda. He's increased America's dependency on welfare and other social spending programs. He's completely worried and obsessed with optics. He's worried about skin color and promoting people based on their skin color and identification rather than qualifications and expertise. And those qualifications and expertise, those issues matter when you're talking about the most important people surrounding the president, advising him. Maybe if you look for people based on their qualifications, their knowledge, their expertise, instead of their superficial visual optics, he would have been getting better advice before making these decisions in Afghanistan. Now we're dealing with critical elements of presidential leadership, and we're seeing failures, such as foreign policy. And as Ben Shapiro says, quote, foreign policy abhors a vacuum. Biden has willfully created one, end quote. So that's the news this week. A little grim, but that's the reality. And we hope for a better week next week. We hope for better advice for our president and better opportunities to do something better on the world stage, and certainly to whatever degree that mess can be cleaned up in Afghanistan. That's it for the Heartland View. As always, if you'd like more details on these stories, please go to heartlanddailynews.com. If you'd like to see the work of the Heartland Institute, please go to heartland.org. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.